In first stage, you have only A without B, then comes B that was not existing before. It's called in Hasidus Kadmo HaHe'eder. It was preceded by non-existence. Before B came out of its source, it did not exist, and now that it came out of its source, it exists. Forget about the fact that Hashem made it shine, but let's say it's subjected to the will of the sun, to the choice of the sun to shine. Then the light, before it came out of the sun, did not exist. And only when the sun wants, so it decides to shine, it exists. This is a more course of understanding Kadmon. So good morning. Today is Yud Base. The shiur I would like to dedicate to the well-being and the immediate rescue of the captives in Gaza and the refuah of all those who were injured and wounded, all those that are not well and need refuah. We are on page Reish Chaf, not far from what it says on the side, the old edition, I don't see Sterner here, Kuf Samech Vov. It's a line above that. V'atzmuso, almost like the middle of the main paragraph. V'atzmuso lo shayach klal likros ein sof klal. Ach haramak, zichrono livracha, nechlak alehem. Ach haramak. I think that even though we began some kind of a chazara, let's go back. I want to quickly review to bring us into the context without getting into depth, just going through the Maimar until now, and then we will continue Be'ezus Hashem. So if you want to follow inside, you can look at page Reach, Reish Yud Ches, from the beginning of the Maimar. At first, this is the Maimar, ויולך הוויה הים, ברוח קדים עזה כל הלילה. That Hashem led the Red Sea with a ruach kadim, an eastern wind, all night. ויבקעו המים, and the waters split. And the Rebbe is asking, what is this thing of this ruach kadim? It looks like Hashem needed kind of a teva assistance in order to enable the water to split and the water to stand up and so on. And this is this eastern wind, the ruach kadim that was blowing all night. And the Rebbe is asking, the whole thing of the splitting of the sea was lemala min teva. So you need some kind of a teva assistance? Excuse me. Do you need some kind of a teva assistance in order to split the waters? It was a complete lemala min teva event. To understand that, which will eventually we will, Be'ezus Hashem, and we kind of can hint to the closure of the circle that began with this question. It is a ruach kadim. It is part of this miracle of the splitting of the Yam Suf, of the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds, which is the ruach kadim, which hints to where we left off. And that's the inyan of kadmoino shel olam. What is the inyan of kadmon? We will come back to it at the end of the Chazara. So the ruach kadim was also not a natural ruach. It came from kadmoino shel olam. Kadmon, as we know already, is something that has nothing that preceded it. And you cannot say about Kadmon that is Kadmo HaHe'eder, that it was preceded by non-existence. It always was. That's the Kadmon. And in fact, the only one you can apply the term and the adjective kadmon is God himself. Atzmuso mahuso. That nothing caused it and nothing preceded him. He always was. So this Ruach Kadim, now I can already hint it, give you a preview what's going to be, that Ruach Kadim comes from this Kadmoina Shel Olam, was a high Ruach. In any case, to understand that, the Rebbe says, we have to understand the fact that Atzilus, if you remember, we began by discussing Atzilus, that is called Adam. Atzilus, the world of Atzilus is called Adam. Why it is called Adam? Because it is Edme Le'elyon. Because it is similar to that which is above it. Why? Because Atzilus is Gilui HaHelem. Atzilus is a Gilui of that which is concealed in a higher world. What's the higher world? Adam Kadmon. What's in Adam Kadmon? All spheros and everything that is going to happen to them, from the beginning of the world till its end. And Atzilus is why it is called Adam, because Atzilus is Gilui HaHelem of Adam Kadmon. All the spheros are there in Adam Kadmon, but in Adam Kadmon they are not begilui. They are in a concealed state. What does it mean, begilui? Those who learn Sha'ar HaYichud now, Gilui means Oros Bekelim. And only in Atzilus, the spheros are Oros Bekelim. And when you have an Or in a Kli, then you have Gilui. But Adam Kadmon is higher than Gilui. And Keser, Adam Kadmon, higher than Gilui. It's concealed because these Oros are not in Kelim yet. But all the 10 spheros are there in Adam Kadmon. But Atzilus is called Adam because Atzilus is Gilui HaHelem of Adam Kadmon. Is revealing that which was concealed and not revealed yet in Adam Kadmon. And from that end, Atzilus, I don't know why I call it Atzilus Chasidus. Maybe because Hasidus talks so much about Atzilus. But, the Rebbe will take us higher than Atzilus, really. In any case, we understand so far that Atzilus is Gilui HaHelem. Versus what? Versus Yesh Me'ayin. So Atzilus, that is not doing anything new. It's just megale that which is above it. And that's why it's called Adam. Edme la'elyon. I am similar, says Atzilus, to that which is above me, to Adam Kadmon. Fine. But then, in Iyov, there is a pasuk that says, Ve'achochma me'ayin timatzeh. There is a pasuk that says that Chochma comes about from Ayin. That means not Gilui HaHelem, it means Yesh Me'ayin. So now we have to resolve this contradiction. That on one hand, Atzilus is Gilui HaHelem, revealing what was there already in a concealed state. And on the other hand, Atzilus is Yesh Me'ayin. Yesh Me'ayin means something new that wasn't there before. So the Rebbe resolved it, that Atzilus is called Edme Le'elyon, that Atzilus is Gilui HaHelem, and in that sense being similar to that which is above it. It just brings about to revelation that which is above it. This is regarding to Adam Kadmon, and even to extend it to Klalus HaKav. That as long as you are talking about the Kav, all Adam Kadmon, the Kav, that is in relation to that, because Kav is or that comes b'derech gvul, in relation to that, Atzilus is Gilui HaHelem. So then we have, what do you mean? So the Rebbe says, what I mean, that really from Ein Sof there are two Hamshachos. From Or Ein Sof, from the infinite light of God, there are two kinds of flows, of divine flows, Hamshachos, divine manifestations. One comes in a manner of Gvul Amidah, one Hamshacha, one divine manifestation comes in a manner of boundaries, of measure, of limitation, and that is Gilui HaKav. And the other Hamshacha that comes from Or Ein Sof remains infinite and not finite, which is the Ha'ara the Rebbe calls of Malchus of Ein Sof. It is still a revelation of Ein Sof itself, of the infinite itself, without relation to Gvul, to limitation. The Kav is obviously the Hamshacha in a manner of Gvul. But from where is it coming? It's coming from before the Tzimtzum, from that Or before the Tzimtzum. And it carries similarity to the Ma'or, to its source. Nevertheless, it operates in a manner of limitation, of Tzimtzum, of measure. And in reference to this aspect of the divine revelation of the Kav, Chochma or Batzilus is Edmei Le'Elyon, is Gilui HaHelem. However, in comparison or in relation to the Hamshacha that remains infinite, in comparison to that, Atzilus is Yesh Me'ayin. Chochma or Batzilus is Yesh Me'ayin. Okay? So we are saying now that the resolution to the question, how come Atzilus is called Edmei Le'Elyon, that means it's Gilui HaHelem. At the same time, there's a pasuk says, V'chochma me'ayin tu matzeh, and Atzilus is Chochma, because the Chochma is the sphere that dominates in Atzilus. So sometimes Atzilus is, you'll find in Chassidus and in Kabbalah that Atzilus is Chochma. Bria is Bina. The Midas is Yetzira. And Malchus is Asiya. So in relation to the Kav, to the way Hashem manifests, or Or Ein Sof, Hashem Lines, the infinite light of Hashem manifests itself in relation to Gvul, to limitation, in relation to that Gilui and that Hamshacha, Atzilus is Edmei Le'Elyon, is Gilui HaHelem. But in relation to the Hamshacha that remains infinite, then Atzilus is called Yesh Me'ayin. Then the Rebbe got into a whole pilpul about the nature of the relation between the Kav and Or Ein Sof before the Kav, and how the Tzimtzum is really, is it, how much of a Tzimtzum it is, and does it mean that the Kav loses its connection from Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum, which obviously not. And the bottom line of that discussion, which is now we are in page Resh Yud Tes, is that the Kav never lost its connection from Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum. It's like the mashal of the Rav, of the teacher, that when he wants to be able to present a concept to the student, has to completely mitzamtzem his own knowledge and his own way of knowing the subject in order to create an explanation that is befitting the kelim of the mekabel of the student. But throughout the process of the tzimtzum, the intention lechatchila is that there should be a revelation of the revelation of sechel that is shayach to the Talmud. So once the Rebbe formulates in his mind, or the Rab, the teacher, formulates in his mind the concept, the way it should be presented to the student, then that presentation never lost connection with the original knowledge of the Rav, the way he knows things by himself. It's the same Rav, he just adjusted himself to the Talmud, to the Tzimtzum, even though the Tzimtzum is enormous. But what's the kavana of the Tzimtzum, the Rebbe is saying? The kavana is the Tzimtzum is the gilui that will follow. The kavana of the Tzimtzum that eventually Or Ein Sof will be revealed in the world. That eventually the world will be able to gradually expand and develop and grow its kelim through Torah and mitzvahs and Mesiras Nefesh and Ahavas Yisrael and the integration of the light of Chassidus and so on and so forth, and a lot of Siyata Deshmaya. We come to the point where the worlds are not an obstruction for the Gilui of Or Ein Sof, rather the best keli to the revelation of Or Ein Sof. So the bottom line of that discussion is that the Kav is me'ein ha'Or Ein Sof shelifnei the Tzimtzum. So if this is the case, that the Hamshacha of the Kav is really through the kiruv of Or Ein Sof, not a richuk, not a distance from Or Ein Sof, but a kiruv. Like when the teacher teaches the Talmud eventually, it's not a matter of richuk, it's a matter of kiruv. Why is it? Because the Kav has a me'ein, a resemblance to Or Ein Sof, never lost its resemblance to Or Ein Sof lifnei hatzimtzum. But we said the Chochma and Atzilus is Gilui ha'elem in relation to the Kav. So how is it? We are saying, so please be with me. We are saying that Atzilus is Gilui ha'elem to the Kav, of the Kav. But we had just a little long discussion that comes to the conclusion that the Kav is similar to the Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum. That means that if Atzilus is like algebra, if Atzilus is Gilui ha'elem to the Kav, of the Kav, and the Kav is connected to Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum, so that means that Atzilus too is Gilui ha'elem of Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum. Why you say it's yesh me'ayin? You see a few lines at the end of the big paragraph in Resh Yutes. איך החוכמה היא בחינת יש מאין לגבי עצמוס אור אין סוף. So we need to explain that. And also, we need to understand, the Rebbe says, something cardinal here. And by the way, you know, ladies, you are getting into a deep Haskalah discussion of Hasidus. That women, not too many women dive into this, or dived in the past. So you are still chalutzot. In Israel, that's how you call it, chalutzot, in the learning of Hasidus. Because I don't know how many groups of women are going to learn what we are going to learn, or learning what we are going to learn, and it's getting deeper and deeper. And I hope I won't lose anybody. We will win the war of integrating the great light of Hasidus. In any case, also the Rebbe says, I'm now towards the end of the main paragraph in Resh Yud Tes, וגם צריך להבין בעיקר העניין. We need to understand something in principle here. What do you mean that from Ein Sof you have two Hamshachos? If Ein Sof is Ein Sof, then it's Ein Sof. From where you get two? From the oneness of Ein Sof, you get two. And what kind? One is Ein Sof, one is infinite, and the other one Midah Gvul, which is basically what is called in Hasidus Malchus of Ein Sof, or it's called Sovev HaKlali, that's one Hamshacha, which is like the infinite, Hamshacha of infinity, and then the aspect of Kav, which is Memale Kol Almin, basically. Sovev and Memale. But the Rebbe is asking, they are both coming from Or Ein Sof. Why we have one Hamshacha which is infinite and one Hamshacha which is finite? From where the two come from one? And why these two, and why one is this and one is that? From where came this division? And that would lead us to a really deep discussion of what is Ein Sof. How do you define Ein Sof? In order to define Ein Sof, we will discuss the inyan of Kadmon, why God is called Ein Sof and not El Not Chila. That will be the top end of the concept of Ein Sof. That above Ein Sof, you know, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but the Rambam says that when you come to such concepts that we are approaching, which is to understand what Keser is, and even that is not the purpose. We will soon begin a deep discussion about the Keser, the way Keser was viewed by the early Mekubalim, and the way Keser was viewed by the Ramak, Reb Moshe Cordovero, and how Keser was viewed by the Arizal. And all this, not one way to teach it is that it's not necessarily to teach us about Keser, which the Rebbe is in a very relatively thorough way, but it's all in the service of teaching us what Ein Sof is. How do you define Ein Sof? So we already, I'm giving you a preview, already learn, because this is a chazara, but I'm giving you a foresight, that we already defined the difference between, brought up the difference between Ein Sof and Ein Lo Tchila. And that will be the top end of the definition of Ein Sof. Then will come the bottom end of the definition of Ein Sof. And that is Keser. Why the top and the bottom? Why not directly talk about Ein Sof? Because certain concepts are so high that you cannot study them in a direct positive way. That the only way to come to understand something about these concepts is through Yedias HaShlila, through defining what they are not. And the Rambam says that if you do a lot of Yedias HaShlila, you get a little bit closer to Yedias HaChiyuv. That if you do a lot of of finding and searching what these topics are not, you eventually get closer to understanding what it is. And in a way, the Rebbe will do that. Regarding understanding Ein Sof. And that is done through extending the question, presenting the Tikkunei HaZohar, which states that Or Ein Sof is Lemala ad Ein Ketz, Ulemata ad Ein Tachlis. That Or Ein Sof is going infinitely high and infinitely to the above and infinitely to below, Lemata. And here again comes the question, when you're talking about Or Ein Sof, infinite, how is Shayach to say Mala and Mata? How is Shayach to say up and down? Or Ein Sof, if anything, it's described Kabbalistically as an eagle, as a circle, not as a curve. There's no up and down in Or Ein Sof. It's infinite from all sides. And the better description to Or Ein Sof would be Leis Asar Panui Minei. Why the Zohar describes Or Ein Sof as going infinitely high and infinitely low, and rather than saying that there is no place that is vacant of it. That is the right description. There's no Mala and Mata in Or Ein Sof. To understand that, the Rebbe says, we have to first, now I'm in the bottom paragraph on page Reish Yud Tes, which is in the old edition Kuf Samech Hey. We need to first preface, the Rebbe says, what is the meaning of Ein Sof? We all do say Ein Sof, infinite, Ein Sof, no end, Ein Sof, Ein Sof. What does it mean, Ein Sof? Define it. Mao Ein Sof. And the famous question is, why godliness is called Ein Sof? Why God is called Ein Sof? Why is not called Ein Lo Tchila? Has no beginning, which is a way higher virtue. If you can give any descriptions of virtues to God, that he has no beginning because he is the only one that has no beginning, rather than no end. Because as the Rameh, as Reb Menachem Azariah Mipano says, Kol Kadmon Nitzchi, but not Kol Nitzchi Kadmon. Every Kadmon, anyone that has no beginning, that was not preceded by anything else, is eternal. But not everything which is eternal is Kadmon. For instance, we will find out more about that. But just to give a Gashmius example, we will find much more about it regarding Keser, regarding Or Ein Sof. How you define Kadmon, we will go deeper and deeper into the definition and the different dargos of Kadmon as well, and concepts of Kadmon. But right now we are looking at it in a very general way, that there are things that are eternal, even physical things, that Hashem put eternity as long as the world exists. The sun eternally exists, the moon eternally exists. Are they Kadmon? No. They have a beginning, they are created. So therefore the Rameh said that Kol Kadmon, anyone who is Kadmon, that is Mitziuso Me'atzmuso, that was not preceded by anything, and always existed, will definitely be Nitzchi, and will absolutely be eternal. But not Kol Nitzchi is Kadmon. There are things including Or Ein Sof that is Nitzchi, is infinite, and is eternal, but not Kadmon. And as the Rebbe says, many of the Nivraim are Nitzchim, are eternal, the celestial bodies in the Ratzon HaBoire. This is the choice of the Creator. But there is no Kadmon except for God Himself. And if this is the case, why not be called Kadmon? Why not called Ein Tchila, rather be called Ein Sof? And by the way, the Rebbe says even all the Nivraim, they are Mechudashim, they are created. And even Adam Kadmon say, oh, wait, we call Adam Kadmon. So the Rebbe said it doesn't mean Kadmon like that nothing preceded it. It means Kadmon that it preceded all creations, preceded Atzilus. It preceded all creation. It's the world that includes everything that will be emanated and created. Today, it's called Kadmon in relation to anything that will follow, that it preceded everything that follows, but not Kadmon that nothing preceded it. A lot preceded it. A lot preceded Adam Kadmon. So that's the question, the big question that the Rebbe is presenting, that the bottom line of this discussion is that Kadosh Baruch Hu is the only one that Ein Lo Tchila, that has no beginning, and nothing else has this quality, and therefore all the Mekubalim, all the Kabbalists should call godliness Ein Lo Tchila and not Ein Sof. Okay, so that was describing the difference, the ceiling of the term Ein Sof, that the term Ein Sof doesn't go all the way up, rather above it is Ein Lo Tchila. Now we're going in a manner of, as the Rambam teaches us, when something is complex or difficult to perceive, learn it in the manner of Yedias HaShlila, of defining what it is not. So we define what it is not on its upper side, which it is not Ein Lo Tchila. It is not Kadmon. It is Ein Sof, but it is not Ein Tchila. Fine. What about the bottom of the definition of Ein Sof? What is under it? And now for that, the Rebbe will bring the inyan of Keser and the different views of the Kabbalists on the Keser, on the inyan of Keser. And Keser does not mean here a specific Keser. It could be any Keser. It's the principle of Keser. That could be Keser of Atzilus or Keser of Adam Kadmon, any Keser of any world, even Keser of Bria, what Keser is. And we already learned, I'm reviewing everything, just in a manner of running through it. By Hashgacha Pratis, I chose to learn it with the explanations of Rabbi Gopin. He doesn't explain it like this, the upper, the lower. That's like, idea that I got from Rabbi Paltiel, sein gesund. Rabbi Gopin takes a different shita of explaining, which is okay. We follow his mainly. But I'm here and there interjecting other things. So in any case, now the Rebbe will bring a very interesting discussion about Keser and how it is viewed. And it will help us a lot to understand. We are now diving into concepts that are above Atzilus, So now we are on page Reish Chaf, Ha'inyan Yuvan, and we already learned it, that the Mekubalim have different views regarding Keser. Now, when we say different views, really, what it is really is how Kabbalah developed. It's not really like disputes like in a Gemara. We're talking about Pnimius HaTorah, it's all one. But you can see how the view, the knowledge of the higher worlds expanded with every generation. So we will have here three views: the early Mekubalim, the Ramak, Reb Moshe Cordovero, and the Arizal. What do they have different view about regarding if Keser is Miminyan HaEser Sfiros or not? Is Keser one of the 10 Sfiros or not? Now, many from the Mekubalim held that you cannot count Keser as one of the 10 Sfiros. And therefore, when you are relating to Keser, you call it Ein Sof. You cannot call it one of the 10 Sfiros. You call it Ein Sof. However, the Ramak, Moshe Cordovero, in the Pardes, in his famous book Pardes Rimonim, Sha'ar im Ein Sof hu HaKeser, whether Ein Sof is Keser or not. So the Ramak is nechlak alehem. The Ramak disagrees with the early Mekubalim and says that Keser is also part of the 10 Sfiros. And he explained the words of the Mekubalim, and he agrees with the Mekubalim. They all agree that Keser is way higher than all other Sfiros. But the early Mekubalim held that all Sfiros from Chochmah down are Mechudashim, are created Yesh Me'ayin, are new. However, Keser Eino Mechudash. Keser is not created. Keser is not new. If you want to understand it Kabbalistically, then the reason is why all the other Sfirot are Mechudashim, and again, for those who learn Shara Yichud, we are learning about it now, the Atzilus and the Kelim of Atzilus, that why Kelim are associated with Yesh Me'ayin? Kelim are associated with Yesh Me'ayin, which means Mechudashim, things that come about in a new way, that didn't exist like this before. Because the Keli has two effects on the light, as we learned yesterday in Shara Yichud. One is that it changes the nature of the light. Like as we said yesterday, that the power of Re'iyah, Haruchni, changes in the eye, the Keli, to Re'iyah Gashmi. And so too, anything that will come about as a result of the meeting and the blending of the Or and the Keli will be Yesh Me'ayin, because it changes the Or completely. The Keli changes the light and also limits it. So since all the spheres from Chokhmah down have Kelim, they are all Mechudashim. They are all created. They are all new. Yesh Me'ayin. However, Keser has no Kelim. Keser is only, the state of Keser is still only Oros without Kelim. And therefore, there is no way to teufes the light of, to grasp the light of Keser. The truth is that Keser does have Kelim, but they are totally battled to the light. And therefore the expression of the Zohar is Taman leit mana lemit paslei lemindai bei yedia klal. Since Keser has no kelim, there is no garment in Keser that you can hold on to grasp Keser or to get to know it. The truth is, though, the Rebbe says that not only mitzad the kelim, but even mitzad the oros, they are mechudashim. Even the oros of the sfiros, and especially that we are holding, as we learned before a few sessions ago, about the shita, that the oros we are holding by the shita of oros mesuyarim, that already in the or the shaychus to the different sfiros, and therefore gam ha'or nikraim mechudashim. And as we just learned, that chokhmah is called yesh me'ayin in comparison to atzmus or and so. However, they say keser is a hamshacha that is in a manner of Ein Sof. No keli. So if this is the case, if the early Mekubalim held that Keser is not included in the 10 spheros because it has no keli, and therefore it is a zamshachra in a manner of Ein Sof, according to their explanation, it is easier to understand what it says in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, the Ad shelo nivra olam hayahu ushmo bilvad. That before and until the world was created, what was there? Him, which means God, and his name alone. That means that the inyan of Shmo, the name of Hashem, was there before the emanation of worlds. What is this Shmo? What is his name? According to the Mekubalim, his name is Keser. Keser is his name. Vehu hanikra Ein Sof. And Keser is called Ein Sof. It's not called Ein Tchila. And it's right to call it Ein Sof, because really, it does have a Tchila. Because if you call Keser the name of Hashem, and soon you will see that the more Mekubalim call it also the Ratzon in Atzmus, but in a moment, if it's the name of Hashem, so it is not the original being. The original being is the carrier of the name, the Baal Hashem. The one that the name of Hashem is his name. So now we have God and his name. God ein lo tchila. His name, yesh lo tchila. You cannot say the name of Hashem that ein lo tchila. The tchila is the Baal Hashem. It's God himself. And therefore it's called Ein Sof. Because Mahuso v'atzmuso, according to the Mekubalim, you cannot call anything. You cannot call Ein Sof for sure. You cannot anything. And therefore, what's Ein Sof? Ein Sof is Keser. That's the opinion of the early Mekubalim. This is where we got to until now. Okay? Any questions so far? And now I want to go back So again, according to this, the Mekubalim are making it clear and easy to understand that the term Ein Sof that is mentioned in the Zohar regarding the greatness of Hashem doesn't relate to his atzmus, to his essence, which is called Ein Lo Tchila. There's no beginning. Rather, it is used in relation to Keser, which is called Ein Sof. This is the opinion of the early Mekubalim. The Ramak will not agree with them. And the one that will present the resolution between the opinion of the early Mekubalim and the Ramak is the Arizal, who Machriya. He is the one that resolves it all. But beforehand, let's go back, and now it will require a little concentration, and we will go maybe a few minutes past the hour, if you don't mind, unless you want me to stop here. So if you don't stop me, I'm continuing. And if you want to stop me, you can unmute yourself. Let's follow the explanation of Rabbi Gopin regarding Kadmon. We began it last time. There were less people present, and I want to repeat it. So let's explain more, says Rabbi Gopin, regarding the concept of Kadmon, the terminology of Kadmon. There are various manners of hispashtut and amshacha from a source of light and hashpah to the outcome of that, whatever comes out of the source. There is a source and whatever comes out from the source. Like Nivra that comes out from Boire, a creation that comes out of a creator. Or an emanation that comes out of the emanator. Or the way light comes out, or comes out from the luminary, from the ma'or. Or the way the midos come from moichin. Or the way the sechel of the Talmud comes from the sechel of the Rav. There are many differences, nuances, very delicate differences between one kind of hamshacha, of flow from the source to what's coming out of it, and another. And that helps us to define more the terminologies of Kadmon and Ein Lo Tchila and so on. But in all these hamshachos, explains Rabbi Gopin, there are two inyanim. There is A and B. The A is the source, the makor, and the B and the base is the totzah, the outcome that comes out of the source. That means that in first stage you have only A without B, and then follows B. Then comes B that was not existing before. It's called in Hasidus Kadmo HaHe'eder, that it was preceded by non-existence. So B did not exist, and now it exists. Meaning before B came out of its source, it did not exist, and now that it came out of its source, it exists. Example, the sun and its light. If, says Rabbi Gopin, the light of the sun would radiate out of the sun depending on the will of the sun, which is not the case. In this case, the sun was created as a luminary. Hashem made it like this. But let's say the sun decided when it wants to or not shine its light. Then this light, Kadmo HaHe'eder, then if let's say it's this, forget about the fact that Hashem made it shine, but let's say it's subjected to the will of the sun, to the choice of the sun to shine. Then the light, before it came out of the sun, did not exist. And only when the sun wants, so it decides to shine, it exists. This is a more course of understanding Kadmon. Another more subtle way to perceive it is A doesn't have to want B to exist. There is another manner of B coming out of A, which is in an automatic way, mimele, which means that if A exists, automatically B exists as well. And to the extent that you cannot say that B did not exist before, but it always was. An example, an ishtalshelus from an intellectual idea, from a, how do you call it, a spiritual idea. For instance, give an example. The mind obligates us to conclude that the world was created yesh me'ayin. Okay? The mind, after, if we investigate with our mind logically the inyan of creation and the world, the mind will come to the conclusion that the world was created yesh me'ayin. This is the source of this understanding. Okay? So now there is an understanding, a general understanding, the principle of an understanding that the world was created yesh me'ayin. What is the immediate conclusion that automatically is derived out of this understanding? The automatic result of this understanding that the world was created yesh me'ayin is that godliness, or the ayin doesn't mean nothing. It means nothingness in terms of our existence, but of course it's a lukus. It's not nothing, it's a lukus. But it's non-existential in our parameters of existence. And that's why we call it ayin. But if we say that the world was, please bear with me, if you say that the world was created yesh me'ayin, that means that the ayin has to be constantly invested in the creation of the world, in the world, constantly. Because the world has no source of its own. It's only created yesh me'ayin, didn't create before, didn't exist before. So the ayin has to be constantly present in the world to recreate it. And another consequence of this understanding is that if the ayin will be removed even for a moment, the world will cease to exist, as we learn in Tanya, in Shara Emunah, in Shara Yichud Ba'emunah. So on one hand, you can say that the understanding that the ayin has to be constantly pumping into the yesh, and if not, the yesh will not exist. These are two ideas that are derived of the understanding that the world is created yesh me'ayin. But does it mean that there was a time that A existed without B? Even though B, the two ideas that the ayin has to be in the yesh all the time and the yesh would not exist otherwise, these two ideas come out of A, that the world is created yesh me'ayin. But was there a time that A existed without B? Without this understanding, without this outcome, and the understanding that, oh, sure, if the world is created yesh me'ayin, the ayin has to be there all the time. So here you have the outcome. You have B. B understands the I-ness to be all the time in the world. But you cannot say that it didn't exist before A. Without, it didn't exist before. That A existed without it. So on one hand, you cannot say that B ain't not tchila because it's an outcome of A. But at the same time, it's like kadmon like A. The moment A exists, B exists. And then we brought the example of the Chossam Sofer. And the example was the shadow of a person. That as long as there is light, a person walks around and creates a shadow wherever he goes. This shadow that is created from the person doesn't come after the person. There is no stage where the person is and the shadow is not existing. Because in any position that a person will take, there will be a shadow. And therefore, you cannot say about the shadow that kadmo ha'eder, that it didn't exist before. And at the same time, you cannot say in lo tchila. It's definitely created by the person. So the existence of the shadow is in such a way that the shadow became from the person, but was always there with the person. And I think we will stop here, and next time we will go to the last stage of understanding different subtleties of Kadmon, and then explain how it applies to the understanding of the Mekubalim of Keser, and then leading to the Ramak and the Arizal, Bezrat Hashem. We'll continue in Bezrat Hashem next week.